Back before One Piece started publishing in 1997, author Eiichiro Oda had drawn 8 different prototypes for it, filled with scrapped ideas and lost characters. Most of these prototypes are just sketches, but some are entire chapters of what One Piece could have been if it was greenlit earlier. The first of these sketches is Forward from 1994, featuring Monkey D. Pow, a beta design of Monkey D. Luffy. The bandana Pow wears resembles the Gum Gum fruit, and the stretch note suggests that Pow also had rubber powers. The old man in the image is called Merry, which is the name of the Straw Hat's first ship, and the note next to him says that he is the spirit of the rubber tree. The idea that the Gum Gum fruit came from a specific rubber tree appears multiple times in Oda's early sketches. There's also a design for a character that didn't make it into One Piece, but the most surprising thing is the thief girl called Rizuru, who is an obvious prototype of Nami. This means that the author had created the dynamic between Luffy and Nami years before the series actually started. But that isn't the only dynamic that made it into One Piece. Monsters is Oda's previous one-shot featuring a samurai called Ryuma. Ryuma had a few elements that would eventually make it into Zoro. But what's more interesting is an early sketch about a character dynamic between Ryuma and a knight called Romeo, where the two would constantly bicker because of their differences. This dynamic would later be used in One Piece as Zoro and Sanji fighting, so it's interesting to think that their arguing was originally meant to be from an Eastern versus Western clash. While Ryuma would end up actually appearing in One Piece as a character, Romeo would be reworked into a gunslinger called Naruto. Then he was changed to a martial arts chef, and since the Naruto manga was about to begin, his name was changed to Sanji to avoid confusion. Land the Dragon and the 10 Thieves is a 1995 prototype, starring a banished knight leader called Land. Despite looking like Luffy, Land is nothing like him. There's also a princess called Kurino who resembles Nami, and we get our first appearance of Shanks, who plays the new Knights leader, meaning that Shanks was originally meant to be more of a rival to Luffy than a mentor. White King from 1995 features Land again, along with a woman that looks like Nami. There's also another woman who is obsessed with money much like Nami, and 3 animal sidekicks next to 5 new characters that we never see again. It seems the manga would be about an expedition group hunting a Yeti, while the main character focuses on saving animals from avalanches. Hammerfish from May 1995 features a main character called Clam who can't swim, much like how Luffy can't swim. We also have a girl called Liesel who is this version's Nami, and her older brother Pesca who looks like Zoro. The story would be about Clam rescuing a fish from Pesca who turns out to be the water spirit called Fontaine. Cornell from 1995 features a cyborg that slightly resembles Monkey D. Pow, and Meru, a girl who looks the least like Nami out of every sketch we've seen. The only information we have on the story is that Cornell escaped from a research facility who mechanized him and wants to protect Meru. It's worth noting that in every one of these side stories, the author made a Luffy-like character and a Nami-like character without fail. The Boy Who Rode a Dragon is a series we only have one picture of, but the character in it resembles both Luffy and Zoro, with the dragon being the same one Land has in the Knight prototype. One Piece was originally called Romance Dawn, a title that would be reworked into the name of Chapter 1 of One Piece. In 1996, Romance Dawn was published as a one-shot in Shonen Jump, with 2 versions of it existing. Version 1 starts with Monkey D. Luffy on the same tiny boat he has in One Piece. He meets a girl named Shiriku, a version of Nami with a sword. This isn't too surprising. There's art from before One Piece began depicting Nami with a giant axe, which meant that she was originally a fighter on the crew. In the animated retelling from 2008, Shiriku has blonde hair. Luffy explains to Shiriku that there are 2 types of pirates: Morganias, who loot and pillage, and Peacemains, who go on adventures and fight Morganias. This is definitely a way less nuanced take on pirates than we ended up getting in One Piece. We then get a flashback of the Red Hair Pirates, which is how Chapter 1 of One Piece starts. Luffy eats the Gum Gum fruit, which is said to be a fruit from the illusion tree that bears fruit once every 50 years. This is a common trend with Romance Dawn. Things are over-explained here compared to One Piece where they're left blank and thus eventually get changed when the author actually gets around to explaining them. Luffy is seen fishing before getting attacked by a shark. Then Shanks jumps in to save him, getting his arm bitten off in the process. In Chapter 1 of One Piece, the same thing happens, but Luffy actually learns a lesson from it. In Romance Dawn, this is just an accident. Shiriku tells her backstory, saying how she got abandoned by pirates, very different from Nami who got enslaved by pirates. The rest of the chapter is just Luffy fighting some pirates, with the final page of the chapter being Luffy in the future, surrounded by his future pirate crew as they land at a new island. Version 1 of Romance Dawn is very different to modern One Piece, like how at the end of the chapter Luffy sails away without Shiriku. I guess she was just a one-chapter side character, but also she might be the girl from the Flash Forward. Unless that's another girl, because the author's infamous for redrawing Nami's face a lot. The ending of the chapter is a happy one, with Luffy going on a continuous adventure with his crew. This could be a hint at how the author would end One Piece, but I don't think that One Piece's ending will be anything like this. Romance Dawn was made before the author made Gold Roger and the One Piece itself. A big part of One Piece is the characters going on a voyage to fulfill their dreams. In Romance Dawn, none of the characters even mention their dreams, and also in One Piece, Luffy has a bunch of death flags. Every other thing he does seems to shorten his lifespan. The ending of One Piece is either going to be of Luffy dying or the characters fulfilling their dreams, not a never-ending adventure like in Romance Dawn. Version 2 of Romance Dawn starts off the exact same way, except the plot fell right into Luffy's boat. A pirate crew is trying to recapture a bird that fell into Luffy's boat. Luffy hands over the bird to the crew and meets a girl called Anne, a Nami clone but with blue hair this time. Anne warns Luffy that the pirate captain is a black magic user. Luffy insults the captain and is thrown into the brig with Anne. Luffy explains to Anne about peace mains on Morganias, and then we get a flashback of Garp. So Garp makes his debut appearance in Romance Dawn, still being Luffy's grandfather, but this time he's trying to convince Luffy to become a pirate, not a marine like in One Piece. Although Garp is introduced early in the live action, his first appearance in the One Piece manga is on the cover of chapter 92, wearing a dog hat that covers his face. The reason for this is so that any reader who read the Romance Dawn one-shot wouldn't recognize him before his reveal as Luffy's grandfather in chapter 431. Garp plays the role of Shanks in this version, giving Luffy his straw hat and accidentally giving him the Gum Gum fruit. This is just a side thing, but version 1, version 2, and chapter 1 of One Piece all use the exact same expression when Luffy finds out he can't swim. Luffy escapes the brig and defeats the pirate captain while rescuing Anne's bird. The last scene of version 2 is of Anne thanking Luffy while flying away, with a narration box saying that Luffy would build up a reputation in these seas. Version 2 is way more different than version 1. Firstly, black magic is a power system that didn't make it into One Piece, and from what we're shown, I don't even know what it is. It seems to give you the powers of a witch, but also lets you summon items, and the story denies that it's even a devil fruit. This version also introduces Anne's bird, which is a roc, a mythical creature that in Romance Dawn is said to be the last of its kind, which probably means that this thing was intended to be a crew member. But then there's Anne herself, who just flies away at the end of the chapter. So were they actually meant to be a part of the crew? These two versions would be small footnotes in One Piece's history, if it wasn't for Garp. Such a beloved character being the exact opposite of what he became is really interesting, especially since Shanks was in the first draft, replaced by Garp, and then came back at the last minute. After Romance Dawn, there are a few sketches that exist of One Piece's original concepts. This drawing of Buggy's crew suggests that Zoro was meant to be a part of it, and this sketch of the main cast depicts Zoro, Luffy, Usopp, Nami and Sanji like how they appeared in One Piece, except Zoro is wearing black clothes, Usopp is wearing a captain's hat, and Sanji has a little bit of a beard. There's also Chopper's original design where he was human-sized and smoked, and Brook's prototype that wore Robin's cowboy hat. Not sure who the hell these two are though. Even after One Piece started, the author still made tons of sketches of characters before they were introduced. His first sketch is of the Arlong pirates, showing that Hachi was originally a woman fisherman. Don Krieg's sketch shows that he was meant to be a cyborg, much like Frankie. Blackbeard stayed mostly the same from his prototype, but he almost had a parrot on his shoulder like a stereotypical pirate. Brook was drawn with a bandana and a standalone top hat alongside his iconic afro. In this picture of 3 of the 7 warlords, Doflamingo wore headphones, and an unnamed warlord was drawn that never made it into the manga. Inazuma was originally the owner of a crab Zoan, which is funny since Luffy's nickname for them is Crab-chan. Kuma's design used to be a lot more cyborgish, and he had a steering wheel stuck in his head like Shiki did in Strong World. Speaking of Shiki, one of his outlines had a steering wheel in his head horizontally. And that is every One Piece prototype. Out of every popular manga, One Piece definitely has the most extensive history of prototypes. If you're interested in any of the sketches in this video, then there are links to their sources in the description. And if you're interested in collector's edition manga, then check out my video on interesting special editions.